So we've covered what we need to be able to roll, which is flexion and extension working together to get that rotation. So we've talked about we need stability, we need strength, we need flexibility, coordination, and a purpose to roll. So we're bearing all those things in mind. So I'm just going to show you some practical ways of how to facilitate rolling. Obviously all your children will be at different levels. If they are having difficulty rolling, it might be for all sorts of different reasons. It might be high tone, low tone, fluctuating tone, all sorts of different reasons. So I'll try and touch on all of them. But at the end, please ask me questions if you've got any specific questions that need answering. So the very basic, get baby in the right place here. I think you can just about see there, maybe that's the best position. So we talked about one of the essential requirements for rolling, or how children tend to learn rolling. And we talked about them being in this flex position. So their knees are up like this, their hands are to their feet, and usually chin is up here. So if you've got a child that's missing any of those elements, then you might want to put a little cushion under their head. You might want to put a little cushion under their pelvis to lift their pelvis up. You might want to physically bring hands to feet. Whatever it is they're missing, you can do it for them. And then in that position, you can just practice rolling side to side. So it's a fun game, singing. Yeah, you're just repeating that over and over again. And as your child gets stronger, you can remove the support. So take the cushion away, or a cushion away from here, or you possibly won't have to keep their hands hand over hand, and just gently do that rolling. So rolling is a lovely prerequisite for that full rotation. So just tucking knees up, hands to knees, and rolling. So that's a really nice one to practice to help that development of rolling. Another way to help is side lying. Side lying, I didn't really listen to my first session, but I did harp on about side lying because as a physio we love side lying. It's fantastic for development. Children that are finding it hard to find midline or hold their head in the middle, this does it for you, because your head is already in midline and gravity has brought your hands together, so your hands are here. So it's a really nice developmental position. Obviously, this is halfway between back lying and dummy lying. So if you're side lying, then your child has got the opportunity to roll onto their tummy if they want to, or roll on their back if they want to, and you can facilitate and guide them in this position. So side lying is a midway position, nice way to play. And you can facilitate, I'll talk about facilitating movement in a minute, but what I like to do a lot with children, particularly a higher tone child, so maybe the child that's using a lot of extension or increased tone, just to put my hand on the chest. So I'm stabilising the top of the body and I'm just rotating the bottom part of the body. And so if there's something that they're enjoying looking at here, this is quite a comforting position. I find most children quite like it. But I'm stabilising here and I'm just rolling the pelvis on the chest. So it's just rolling, rolling. And you might find it's quite tight to start with. You can't roll. And as they relax, you get a little bit more movement in the pelvis. But that's a really nice way of just loosening up. If things are a little bit tight around the hips, obviously if a child is higher tone, they will generally be quite tight and maybe lacking some of the flexibility that's needed for rolling. May not have had that full range of movement with kicking to allow that mobilisation of the pelvis. So you can just do this for them. So you're fixing one area and moving another. You can do it the opposite way around. You can fix the pelvis. So my hand here is fixing and my upper hand is just moving top of the body on the pelvis. So again, it's just that nice rotation. So you're just doing it for them, just loosening up the tissues and the muscles, encouraging a bit of rotation. So it's from that side lying position, just rolling onto their tummy, or rolling onto their tummy using their pelvis. That's just a nice thing to do for the higher toned child. Another way of facilitating rolling from lying on their back, you can facilitate from the hip. So what you'll need to do is bend up one hip and knee, and then you're just going to take it across, and you'll find that your child, you're going to stay in the camera, will roll onto their tummy. Obviously it's easier to do with a child who has lower tone than those with higher tone, but just with a higher tone child, you might want to do a little bit of cycling first of all, just to loosen up the hips a bit, and maybe a little bit of rotation, just to reduce that increased tone side to side. Then you can have one leg out straight, and you're just rolling that bottom leg over. So you're encouraging this arm to come across. Like that. Obviously you can do it the opposite way. So we do the cycling, maybe a bit of rotation, both knees together, knee rolling. And when you feel the child's relaxing, just take one hip over and wait for the rest of the body to come over. Something that I did touch on in the last session was the ATNR, the asymmetric tonic neck reflex. So that happens when a child turns their head in one direction, the same arm extends, but this arm flexes. And this can be a real problem learning to roll, because they're trying to roll that way, but this arm is just pulling back and makes it really difficult to come over into rotation. So what you might want to do with a child that's doing that is really work on this arm, try to get this arm up into midline, so it makes it much easier to roll. So again, I will go back to side lying. Just being in this side lying position, I can keep hips a little bit flexed using my leg, and I do loads of work. I'll roll my baby a little bit further forwards for you. So just one hand on the shoulder, and I do loads of work on reaching. So I'm just keeping the shoulder nice and stable. I'm using my hand to stabilize, and then this hand is just reaching up, coming back. You can put hands on a ball or on a foam roller. I don't you have foam rollers at home? I find them very useful for all sorts of things as well. So hand on a roller, so you're just coming back and coming forward. So you're just relaxing off the shoulder and helping that arm come up. And you can see from that position, if you've got a nice relaxed arm, you can eventually roll onto your tummy. So side lying, arm up, onto your tummy. So I often, in this position, might have a book and just facilitate page turning. So by facilitate, I mean my hands are guiding the child's hand. That's what facilitation is. I'm facilitating a movement, but it might be me moving their arm to do the activity, and they will gradually begin to, if it's something that's pleasurable, they're enjoying, they want to repeat it, and then you take away the assistance each time and work on their independence doing it. That's what facilitation is. So page turning, so we'll turn the page of the book. We'll turn another page of the book. And then we might move the book further away. So if the book is here, I might move it here. So you can't reach it here. You have to roll onto your tummy to reach the book. When you're working on rolling, it's really important to put whatever you're trying to stimulate the child with, this visual, noise, whatever it is to put it diagonally up here. So it's not right in front of them here to roll over. It's actually diagonally above their head. So you're getting that rotation and extension of the neck. That's where you need to position the toy. just up here. So yeah, side lying, reaching, reaching, and then go for a roll. Okay. Now, another thing you might find when you've tried to do the roll, I don't think you'll be able to see here, but often children get their hand, when they've done that roll, their other hand is stuck underneath their tummies and they get really cross and really angry. And the way you can teach them to release that hand is just put a little bit of pressure on their pelvis. So you're bringing their body weight down, allowing them to bring their head up more easily and their shoulder up. And when you've done that, then this arm can be released. Okay, so if you're working with your child and they get onto their tummy, but then their hand's stuck and they get very upset, and just a little bit of pressure on their bottom, sometimes just a little hand to bring that shoulder up is enough to allow release of the hand to the forearm prop. So you often see that that's a problem, particularly again with a higher tone child. So on this I've talked about a higher tone child. So we talked about bending knee up, rolling over, facilitating the movement, but you can do the same with the arm. So you can bring shoulder across, and you don't have to touch legs at all, shoulder across, and the body will just naturally move that way. Easier to do with a lower tone child than a higher tone child if you're facilitating from the arms. Also, think about reflexes. Originally, where the head goes, the body tends to follow. So if you've got a younger child, stimulating to turn head, the righting reaction, body will come through. So lots of visual stimulation to get that head turn, and then body will follow. Okay, so we've talked about facilitating from the shoulder across, facilitating from that hip across. We've talked about side lying, reaching. Right, other ways we can help. So if a child is nearly there, but not quite, you can use, which I haven't got, is a wedge, or actually, let's use a mat to start with. So if your baby is lying on a, mat, what you can do, one of the foam mats or whatever mat it is, if you just lift that surface up for them, so you're initiating the roll, so just a quarter turn, you might even need a half turn, it's just enough to allow your baby just to finish off the roll. When I say baby all the time, it's because I'm working with my massage baby. This applies to children of all ages who are doing the rolling and learning to roll, because this is my baby, I'm talking, it's my baby. Okay, obviously if it's a big child, it's more difficult to do this movement, but if you can just facilitate the roll just by moving the surface underneath them, and then gravity is going to assist. So again, for the lower tone child who it's really effortful, any movement against gravity is going to be effortful and hard work. They'll need lots of motivation and encouragement to roll because it's hard work, so lots of stimulation. But this might just be a help. So if you're physically taking away some of the effort for them, get them to a quarter turn, and they can just roll over themselves. Obviously, similarly, working on a wedge. So say this was my wedge. So you start at the top of the wedge, you can facilitate the movement, and then gravity is just going to help that movement. You obviously need to guide, you don't want any out of control movements happening. So it's just guiding, taking the effort out, facilitating that roll. There we go. Lovely. Right, any other things I need to talk about? So we covered, I was going to talk about looking down, the pat mat that we mentioned earlier, having a mirror. So if there's something, your child's on their front, having something to look down at rather than having to look up. If it's down there, then you'll get that pushing up through arms, that chin tuck down, which is a really nice position to develop all those muscles that are needed for rolling. Okay, I think that's covered most of the practical side of handling and rolling. Obviously, like I said, for the lower tone child, they will need lots of stimulation and motivation to roll because it's very effortful to move against gravity. For the higher tone child, you want to try and relax the muscles a little bit. If they've got an overriding flexor pattern, so they're really pulling into flexion, or the opposite, an overriding extensor pattern that makes it very difficult to combine the two movements, because if one of those movements is overpowering the other, it's very difficult to get rotation. So if you passively rotate, so just doing those passive movements, that can just lower the muscle tone a bit and allow the two elements to work together more easily. So that's high tone and low tone. And obviously hemiplegia wise, so you'll see the asymmetry between the two sides. You'll see the non-affected side developing, and what you want to do basically is encourage the other side to do exactly the same. So again, that's by facilitation of movement. Yeah. Any questions?